Hi, welcome back. Here I've got a couple of valve bodies. These are Silver Shadow valve bodies running on RR363 brake fluid. Two different types here. One's from a Shadow 1 and one's from a Shadow 2. This is the Shadow 1 valve body. You can see the only difference is actually this hole here. That's where the pressure switch, the brake pressure switch goes into. On the Shadow 2, you don't have it. That's because the pressure switches are located somewhere else on the Shadow 2. There's a couple of adapters left in and a bleed screw. These were actually sent in on the spheres, so they had to be knocked off the spheres. This is generally the condition they're going to come in. This video is going to be showing you what it looks like to strip them down and what you expect to see inside. So what we're going to do now is take the valves and open them up and see what's inside. So the best way to do it is to hold it in holding one of the mounting points in a vise. So what I use is a piece of 1-inch hex pushed into a socket, and this one's a bit worn out, it probably needs changing soon, but if it was too worn out it would slip out all the time. So these sometimes can be seized. This one's already been off, so it comes off easily. So you're going to see this is the top cap. This cap nut's just going to, the pressure of the spring will be underneath it, so it can pop up when it gets to the end of its thread. And then underneath it you can see the piston. Now that plug, as you can see, it's got a thread on it. So what we do is just screw a bolt into that and just pop it up. This one has been apart before, so it's all coming apart very easily. So now you can see that this is the bobbin. Now that will just drop out. I'm just going to move here so you can see. You can see it's dropping out there. And as you can see, it's pretty crusty. The O-rings all very flat and hard. Inside you can see the valve that seats on the centre of the piston here under spring pressure, and this should all just drop out now. And at the bottom you've got the spring seat, you see there. Sometimes you have shims on those which will set the preload on the spring. That spring seat and the shims determine how much pressure it takes before the valve will start returning. So it sets the actual system max pressure. Sometimes those bleed screws get seized up. Right, so that's the Shadow 2 one done. Moving on to the Shadow 1. You can see it's got this adapter. That's the feed from the brake pump, the high pressure feed. So the solid pipe from the brake pump comes down the side, down the back of the block, into the valve bodies there on top. The early ones have a smaller union on the pipes. That one's a 3/4 union. Exactly the same inside as the Shadow 2. The very early cars sometimes have a slightly different plug without this raised bit on the thread. They're just, the height of the plug is that height all the way across the top, but it doesn't matter. So we're just going to knock this piston out again. It does look a little bit swollen there. Not sure why that would be. Perhaps some contamination in the fluid. When they've been really contaminated with mineral oil, they swell up and balloon massively. So there's the valve again. We're just going to tap that out. So there you can see a shim washer on the valve seat. So now we're going to take the unions off this, starting with the big high pressure union. So as you can see, it's a 3/4 inch hex, but normally bolts that have a 3/4 inch head can go a lot tighter, because this underneath here, you'll see it's only a small 3/8 thread. So if you tighten that up with the big spanner, you'll just shred the threads. You'll strip the threads pretty quickly. So again, lead screw, luckily not seized. I'm not sure why someone's put this adapter on there. That's not normal. I'm guessing it might be because the seat's damaged on this hole and it wouldn't take a seal, because usually that seal's on the seat of the... So this is usually where the flex hose, this is usually where, so you've got bleed screw, braided pipe to the system, return line, high pressure feed, and switch. Here, this is the switch. Now we come to the piston. This inside here is actually a little aluminium plate which is squashed over the internals there and just seals it. So that needs to come out, and sometimes they're pretty well stuck. So we'll give it a go. There you go, one tap and it all came out. What you've got to be careful there is the spring. That's for the non-return valve. So you can see here the impression it's left on the aluminium plate. That's all very normal. That there in the middle, that is the piston, which has got a PTFE seal on that slides in and out. Once the pressure is released, that slides up, and in here you've got a non-return valve. The best way to get that out is just get a little bit of welding wire in there and pop it out. See? Okay, luckily that one's nicely, very nice and free. Then in the middle one, you can try just pushing it out. So there, that's the piston in the bobbing. Underneath that you got a rubber O-ring, which kind of, it's like it sets the tension on the PTFE seal. These are actually a matched pair. So when you buy it, if you had to replace these, they'd come as a set, so I think they're matched ground. So we'll do the same again on this one. This is the Shadow 1.1. It will be identical. Closer look at that valve. So there's that. It's got a nylon seat. Now these, obviously, we'll talk about the symptoms of what can go wrong if these are no good. But it won't hold pressure if this is no good. You can change these. They're quite expensive, but you can also just replace just the nylon tip. The best way I find to remove the O-rings, and these are easy because they're a bit swollen, looks contaminated, but I just get a pick underneath it. These are very easy because they're just popping straight off. Then you've got this PTFE seal, which you need to kind of split like that. And then that can be gently wound off. Then I just go cut the O-ring. And there's completely dismantled bobbin, and this again, just getting behind it. These O-rings are quite soft. We'll just have a look at the other one. That was a Shadow 1. This is the Shadow 2 one. So you've got the housing. the main spring, bobbin piston, non-return valve, plug, valve, spring seat. This one has got a shim with the spring seat, PTFE seal, and the cap. The parts that we would replace are obviously all of the seals, including the piston seal, the spring, possibly the non-return valve, but only if it's worn out, because they do tend, when they seat well, they actually seat better than the new ones. And we replace the aluminium plate as well. So hopefully that's given you an idea of what you can expect if you were to open up one of your valves and try and reseal it yourself. What we're going to do now is give these a thorough clean, and in the next video you can see how they go back together. I can give you some advice on how to fit some of the seals that are a bit more tricky. So thanks very much for watching, and you'll see the next video soon.